But this lesson is going to be reviewing not only the slopes of lines, how to find the slope of a line, but also talk about parallel and perpendicular lines and compare their slopes. There is a Kahoot activity that goes along with this. If we did not do the Kahoot, I'm going to go ahead and walk through this for you guys. We're going to classify these slopes. First, we want to remember about Mr. Slope Guy or Slope Man. So if we have Mr. Slope Guy or Slope Man, we need to remember that he's got these eyebrows. We've got a positive sign underneath this eyebrow showing a positive slope. We've got a negative sign showing a negative slope. Then we've got the bridge of his nose, and then his little nostrils represents a U for undefined slope, and which is that vertical line. And then your horizontal line for his mouth represents a zero slope. So we put his little dimples here. So we're taking a look over here. We're seeing going from left to right as we read. We're going up the hill, or compared to Mr. Slope Guy's eyes, we're going to have a positive slope. Over here, we're going down the hill, or compare it to his eyebrow, we have a negative slope. Over here, we have a horizontal line, which is going to be that zero slope. And then lastly, over here, we have a vertical line, which represents the bridge of his nose, undefined. So let's talk about finding the slope using the slope formula. We have our x's and our y's, and we make sure everything goes in the correct spot here. So I'm going to make sure to label x1, y1, x2, y2. So I can put these in the right spots. We'll go ahead and start off. Lowercase m for slope equals, I'm going to take y2, 3, subtract y1, negative 2. Be careful there. We've got a minus negative. Then we're going to put in x2, which was 3. Minus x1, again, another minus negative. We put this into the calculator, or we calculate in our head. 3 minus negative 2 is a 5. 3 minus negative 2 is a 4. So you have a slope of 5 over 4. It does not simplify anymore. We're going to do the same thing with your x1s, y1s, x2s, and y2s over here, and continue with the same process. y2, negative 3, minus y1, 3, over x2, 1, minus x1, negative 2. Watch now for that negative 2 again. Up in the numerator, we have a negative 3 minus 3 more. That gives us a negative 6. And then we wind up with 1 minus negative 2, which turns into a 1 plus 2, gives us 3. This all rolls down. We do need to simplify it. It's going to be a negative. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So we have a negative 2 slope. Right, 7, this next one here. Go ahead and put our x's and our y's. And same thing. y2, negative 3, minus y1, negative 3. x2, 3, minus x1, negative 4. When we get this, we're going to get 0 over 7. A 0 in the numerator is going to tell you that this is a 0 slope. If you put that in your calculator will tell you 0. All right. Last one here before we move on. y2, negative 4, minus y1, 1. x2, 2, minus x1, 2. Your negative 1 minus 1 is going to end up being negative 5. Your 2 minus 2 is a 0. Now we have the 0 in the denominator. Okay? Unlike here we have the numerator. When this happens, we end up with an undefined slope. If you put this into your calculator, the ones we have here at school, it will come up saying undef, meaning undefined. If you put it into another calculator, it'll tell you some sort of error because you cannot divide anything by 0. That tells you we have an undefined slope. All right, let's take a look at parallel and perpendicular lines. Parallel, they never intersect. Parallel line slopes, they're going to have the same slope. Your perpendicular, remembering perpendicular, they intersect at 90 degrees at a right angle. They're going to have what we call an opposite reciprocal slope. What this means, opposite, change the sign. Reciprocal, we flip the fraction. So change the sign and flip the fraction. So let's take a look here. We have line A has a slope of 2. Okay, and line B has a slope of negative 1/2. So we want to classify, are they parallel, perpendicular, or are they neither one? If they aren't the same and they don't meet both opposite and reciprocal, then we have a neither. So line A, we have a positive 2 over 1 if we change it in the fraction, since this was a fraction. And then we're going to compare to this negative 1/2. And we go from here to here. We're going to notice we changed the sign, which is opposite. I'm going to put OPP. And we took that 2 over 1 and we flipped it. So we do have reciprocal. Since we meet both the opposite and the reciprocal, we have perpendicular. Number 12, we're looking at a slope of 5 over 4, and we're looking at a slope of 4 over 5. What I want you to notice is we do have the reciprocal, but they did not change signs. So up here, they are not the same, and they're not opposite reciprocals. They're only reciprocals. This one does not meet both opposite and reciprocal, so this is what we call neither. They're just going to be intersecting lines. They're not going to intersect perpendicularly, though. All right, so here we're going to take a look at y equals 5x plus 7 and y equals 5x minus 3. They're both linear functions in your slope-intercept form. We're going to classify the relationship. We need to remember that the y equals mx plus b. M is our slope. And so we look in front of the x, and we're going to notice that they have the exact same slope. So these will be parallel lines. The next section, we are going to be given a series of points, and then we're going to be told about, hey, we're going to find the slope of a certain line. So we're given A, B, C, and D up here. We're going to first find the slope of line AB. That means we need points from A and points from B. So we'll go ahead and using that same slope formula that we were using on the previous page, we'll go ahead and label this x1, y1, x2, y2. So these are the 2 points we're using. So we'll take y2, that negative 5, minus y1, 1. In the denominator, x2, which is a negative 1, and we're going to subtract x1, 1. The numerator up here becomes a negative 6. The denominator becomes a negative 2, keeping in mind that we not only have to divide the 6 by 2, but we have a negative over negative canceling each other out, giving us a positive 3 slope. So let's take a look at CD. So C, I'm going to come over here. I'm switching colors just so I can see the difference. And we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing, and then we'll compare them. Here we have y2, 1, minus y1, 2, over x2, 6, minus x1, 3. This comes out to be a negative 1 in the numerator and a 3 in the denominator. So what we want to notice here is classify the relationship. Well, here we have a 3, which is like saying a 3 over 1. And then we have a negative 1/3. So we have gone opposite signs. And we have taken that fraction and we have flipped it. So we have opposite reciprocals. So these are going to be perpendicular. Please write out opposite and reciprocal. I'll even say recip. If you're not going to see it, if you're going to go back and say, what does that mean? Please write out the words, okay? They're going to be right up here. All right, we're going to do the exact same, this is going to be the relationship between AB and CD. So yeah, same exact thing. Let's take a look. I'm going to use my 2 different colors, okay? First for AB. x1, y1, x2, y2. Making sure I don't mix them up. y2, 12, minus y1, 0, over x2, negative 11, minus x1, so minus negative 12. This is going to end up coming out to 12 over 1, which will just be 12. All right, line CD. Right here, x1s and y1s down here. y2, negative 5, minus y1, 7, all over x2, negative 4, minus x1, negative 3. So again, minus negative. This will end up coming out to a negative 12 over a negative 1. Again, the 12 divided by 1 is going to give you 12, and we have the negative and negative canceling, giving us a positive 12. So here, comparing these, we're going to have the same slope. So we have parallel lines. Next, what we're going to do is we're just going to take this line on the graph and remember, hey, how do we find the slope of a line on a graph? You can go ahead and find the coordinates and do the slope formula that we just did several times, or you can use your rise over run. The first thing that we want to notice here, before we even start, take a look at Mr. Slope Guy, okay, from that previous page, or these guys right here. If you take a look at this, we're noticing that this slope, the line is going from left to right, it's going down the hill towards the negatives and represents this eyebrow. So we have a negative slope. So I'm going to go ahead and note here, so whenever I do my rise over run, I make sure we're going to have a negative. So we're going to go from point to point. We're going to find our rise, which technically in this case is going to be a fall in line. We're going to find ourselves, we're going to go down 2, making it that negative 2. When we go downward, it is a negative. I'll put over here our formula, rise over run. We have down 2, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is a positive. Okay, the negative only goes with the downward motion, and this will simplify to a negative 1/3. Okay, so practice those parallel and perpendicular lines. Remember, an opposite reciprocal are going to be our perpendicular, and same slope will be our parallel.